Hello, folks. Welcome to Business Basics. We've been looking at 25 tips to overcome objections, and I'm joined by my co-host today, the fantastic Andy Hemming, who's got 5 tips for anticipating objections. Andy, it's great to see you. Thanks for joining.
Great to be here. Good to see you, Mark.
Yeah, you too, Andy. Thanks for coming. So you've got some tips today about anticipating objections, Andy. Tell me about that.
Absolutely. Well, let's think about this. I mean, most of our objections shouldn't be a surprise, should they? Usually we get the same objections over and over again. So the first thing to do would be really to look at the customers that you're dealing with and that type of customer. What objections have you had from them in the past? Because obviously if we can position away from those things in the positioning for our sales process, then we're not going to get the objection in the first place. So there'll always be a common list of objections that we can identify and do something about in our sales scripts. I would say this is the first thing. We can research that specific customer by jumping onto their website, but I would say that could be dangerous because the power of assumption can kick in there, can't it? And we all know what assumption can cause. So I think the best way is actually just asking better questions, because the more we understand, the less likely we are to get the objections in the first place. I think I've covered 1 and 2 tips there in terms of let's look at the customers that we've dealt with, the customers that we are dealing with, and do the research on them, but also look at what's happened in our past. What are the most common objections that we run into? So there's be your first 2. And that leads us into point 3, actually, creating that list of objections. Well, if we've got a list of the commonly held objections, and usually there's only 3 or 4 that I've seen in most businesses, there might be a different 3 or 4, but there'll be some similarities too. Then we can start either designing steps into our process to make sure they don't happen, or creating scripts for that part of the process so we can handle them more effectively. If we use case studies, we can overcome objections by positioning better. For me, this all comes down to positioning. The only reason we get objections is because we didn't position properly. So I think using case studies to demonstrate that feel, felt, found aspect of people's journey with us. You know, I understand why you'd feel like that, and many of our clients have felt the same. And what they found is that as a result of doing X, Y, and Z, everything's been hunky-dory and the world's been a better place. So using that social proof to really overcome the objection in the first place. The 5th thing is, you know, which is really, really important, isn't it? We use scripts in sales processes. And so quite often, I don't know whether this has ever happened to you. It certainly happened to me. I've missed one key sentence out of my sales script because I hadn't learnt it well enough. And that one key sentence has caused the objection, which has scuppered the whole damn thing. So I think learning your sales pitch script really, really well and not sounding wooden, because obviously, you know, a lot of people have objections when it comes to scripts. That might be an objection for this very thing. Oh my goodness, sales scripts, don't like those. But here's the thing. When you watch telly, guess what? They're not ad-libbing. They've got scripts. They just learn them really well. That's your opportunity too. So learn your sales scripts really well and make sure that you've positioned really well to stop those objections happening. So those have been my 5 key tips for anticipating them and overcoming them.
Fantastic, Andy. Absolutely brilliant. Thanks so much for your 5 tips.